that came up against the Bears. They have done very well at taking the ball away. And then there was some difficulty in the run game.
Yeah, a slow start it was, but I think they avoided that epic collapse like you saw at Seattle. So the game could have got out of hand early on. I think in the second quarter, a great drive right before halftime gave you a chance to get back in the game. You were doing just enough to stay in it, but like you said, the Bears have been one of the best takeaway teams in the NFL. They certainly did that today. And then if you really look at the biggest difference between these two teams today, it was in the line of scrimmage play. It was the run game. The Bears rushing for 222 yards. The Saints were at 45 yards. So the yards per rush, getting behind the chains, being in third and long situations, I think that was the story of the day.
The Bears definitely dialed up the pressure on the Saints offensively, whether it was coming after Spencer Rattler, speeding him up, or just pressing at the line and not allowing them to get those yards on the ground. How did that affect the Saints' game plan?
Yeah, I think when you look at a Dennis Allen defense, I felt like going into the game, the Saints would have an advantage in the run game because Dennis likes to play a lot of nickel defense. He likes to take that linebacker up the field, bring in a smaller DB. He likes that speed on the field. So that's usually your advantage in the run game. But Dennis does a great job of blitzing those guys, and you saw that all day, that edge pressure. We had a hard time picking that up, whether it was a tight end or a back. He likes to bring those safeties and those nickel guys down off the edge and create all those types of pressure looks. And the Bears, you look at this team, I think their season kind of changed as far as the confidence they had in their building. You know, you go on the road and win a game on Monday Night Football at Washington, who's one of the better teams in the league with a great star quarterback. I felt like you caught the Bears at a time in the season where they were the most confident they've been all year. But I really think the game came down to the battle of the trenches, and the Bears just won that battle.
The Saints got down 20-0 in the second quarter, and that was where the Bears were able to score 17 points. Overall, the Saints really limited them as the game went on. They didn't allow them to score in the fourth quarter. We mentioned the Saints were able to score their first touchdown going into half, came out of half, and scored another touchdown. It was 2 touchdowns to Chris Olave. Those 2 drives, the Saints were moving the ball extremely well. First multi-touchdown game for Olave in his career, so really good to see that. Connection between Rattler and Olave has been there. What worked on those 2 touchdown drives?
Yeah, I think we've seen all year just trying to get the ball to Chris, and today him making huge plays, getting those touchdowns. Like I said, that drive before halftime, I think that gave you a lot of confidence going into the locker room. That as bad as everything has gone, turn the football over, we haven't stopped the run well, but you get that big drive before halftime. Chris made 2 outstanding touchdowns, two great plays. You didn't have enough plays to continually get him the ball. I think the Bears did a good job of trying to take away certain things. They know that Chris has been a feature guy in the offense, but he still was able to get behind him. Kellen did a good job when they were playing man, which Dennis likes to do a lot, play a lot of man-to-man. He liked that matchup with Chris and took advantage of a couple of those times when they brought the house.
I feel like this was a really easy game for you to get prepared for because you know DA so well.
Yeah, you kind of know what you're going to get with Dennis, and it goes all the way back to Greg Williams came here, and then Dennis took Greg's system. So it's all the same stuff. They run the same things, same calls, but I know that he likes to get into those NASCAR-type looks with fast defensive linemen, bringing that edge pressure. And, you know, in the first quarter, it was the difference in the game, bringing a lot of pressure off the edge and getting sacks and kind of disrupting Spencer. I felt like in the first half, Spencer's timing and his rhythm was sped up because of those hits coming off the edges.
This is the first game where we saw Spencer Rattler have a hard time holding on to the ball. He has done such a good job of taking care of the ball, limiting turnovers this season. And even though they haven't had the wins, we have always praised Rattler's continued improvement and success. Today, unfortunately, it really crept up on him. He started the game on the first drive with that fumble, which hurt because the defense had been able to force the Bears to 3 and out for the first drive for them. So starting off with that fumble, and then as the game goes on, he throws 3 interceptions. What led to that change in his play?
Well, I think going back to Dennis and going back to Greg Williams, I played for a guy, Greg always said, when you hit the quarterback, the entire team feels it. And I think that's what happened early in this game. You know, you never want to see your quarterback get hit. And Spencer was getting hit a lot. And I think the change from the other games where he wasn't turning the football over to what happened today is his rhythm and his clock was all off from the very beginning, the first quarter. Anytime you get hit, you get blindsided, you're getting ready to throw, you're getting your throwing arm hit, you constantly are hearing those things in the back of your mind. So I think after the long touchdown to Chris before halftime, you saw him really settle down and get back to playing the football that he was playing earlier this year. But you know, at some point, I also think you do have to take the handcuffs off of him sometimes. You know, your quarterback has to be the reason you win games in this league. So you got to let him go out there and make some mistakes because you can't go out and play too conservative every single game. It's just too hard to win in this league by being conservative.
Yeah, and one of those passes that he was intercepted on was an attempt at a deep ball to
Yeah.
Rashid Shaheed, which is
Yeah.
everybody has been asking for more of those opportunities, and they went for it. The area that the Saints really struggled, though, offensively was establishing that run game.
Yeah.
They only end up with 44 yards on the ground, and then when you look at the fact that the Bears were able to have 222 rushing yards, I mean, they didn't have to rely on Caleb Williams through the air, and he didn't even really throw for that much. It ends up with, let's see, 172 passing yards. So, like, that obviously makes it easier on an offense as well, takes the pressure off. But what do the Saints need to do to adjust and get better in that run game?
Well, you have to stop the run because everything opens up. If a team can get the running game going, they get into the 3rd and 4, and now the entire playbook opens up. So whether you bring more people on pressure, maybe you bring a safety down out of the middle of the field and don't play as much too high, load the box a little bit and say you're going to beat us throwing the ball, which is hard to do in this league. You never really want to force a number 1 overall pick to be the reason that you lose. But I think when you look at the Bears, everybody talked about Ben Johnson pairing with Caleb Williams and how it was going to be a match made in heaven, and you're going to throw the ball all over the place. But if you go back and look at Detroit and the way Dan Campbell built that there, it's built in the line of scrimmage play. We're going to control the line of scrimmage. And I think what you're seeing now is the Bears, it's the same type of philosophy. We're going to run the ball first. We're going to have 2 running backs that just wear you down, kind of like Detroit does. And early on in this game, it was a chess match of what type of style of game is it going to be today? Can we just run the football? And I think Chicago felt really confident early in the game that they could just lean on the Saints defensive line and run the football.
We mentioned that Olave had his first multi-touchdown game. There was another big moment for one of our rookies. Quincy Riley picked up his first interception. He's somebody that has had to step up because Isaac Adams been dealing with a hamstring injury while back at practice this week, unable to go today. What have you liked about what Riley has brought to the game in his first year here?
Well, just looking back at the draft pick, I love the draft pick. He's a ball hawk. He goes and makes plays, and obviously these type of plays early in your career are only going to create that much more confidence. Sanker's done a good job, so you love to see your young guys making plays. It lets you know as a young player, wow, I can play at this level. Because you just want to validate that you can play this level, and so he can. He's making those plays. I love he's got great range. He's got a great body type to play corner. And so just to see these young guys making plays and keeping those game balls for their trophy case, these interceptions, is a huge boost to their confidence.
Yeah, he absolutely handed that one off to the equipment staff. You should see it on the sideline. That one was not going anywhere out of his sight after he grabbed it. Another player that has come in, another rookie, Danny Stutzman. We've been seeing a little bit more of him on the defensive side of things. Definitely somebody who comes in and is effective on special teams. But he has been getting some drives in place of Pete Werner. What are you seeing there?
Yeah, you saw last week he got sprinkled in a little bit early in the game. It wasn't a lot of times with rookies, you're putting him in at the end of the game, maybe when the game's over. But he was thrown into the fire last week when the game was on the line, and then increased his reps even more today. I think the one thing that they really liked about Danny coming out of Oklahoma was he was their captain of their defense at Oklahoma. He was a tackling machine, played downhill. And I think the big question about Danny was, could he play in space? Then he went and ran a really good 40 time in the combine, so he showed he had good speed. But the one thing about Danny, if it's moving, he's going to hit it. And I think that's what, as a coach, you really like those attributes in a linebacker. He was very active today, especially at the end of the game when the Bears were running the football and everybody knew they were trying to run out the clock. He was around, flying around, hitting the ball carrier. So if it moves, he's going to hit it, and I think that's what they like about Danny.
Yeah, he definitely plays an aggressive style, and they definitely like that from him. Chase Young, another player who just come back from injury last week, second game back this week, and he was somebody that popped off the film early on in this game. He had 2 pass deflections, 4 quarterback hits or hurries, and then half of a sack there with Brian Brzee. As you can see, he seems like he's much more comfortable now here in his second game back.
Yeah, this is great to see because Chase, just like last week, you come off a calf injury or you're recovering from a calf injury, you want to take your time with those things and get back into game shape. And you tell he got more plays today, and he was affecting the game, getting around the quarterback, affecting Caleb, flushing him out of the pocket. Didn't always get a sack. Right there, he made a great play, him and Brian together, but he was affecting the quarterback. And that's what when you get pass rushers, yes, you want them to get sacks. You want them to secure those numbers, and they all want those sack numbers. But it's about pressures and affecting the quarterback, and it's a good sign to see Chase out there doing that today.
Something you and I were talking about, too, while watching the game was how Brian Brzee is taking a step forward this year as well.
Yeah, Brian's done a great job. I think the one thing about Brian is nobody's going to dispute Brian's pass rushing ability. He is an outstanding pass rusher. It's really been about can you anchor and play the run. And that's a tough job in there because you got 200, 320-pound guys blocking you all the time. But When it gets into third down, there's a lot of D tackles that come off the field. Teams will take those guys off the field and put defensive ends on the field. And Brian's he's not in that mix. He can stay on the field in these NASCAR packages because he is such a good pass rusher. He's got great get off, got one of the best spin moves in the NFL. So when it gets into pass rushing situations, having Brian out there is a big advantage.
I mean, there are a lot of key pieces, young players on this team that they can build around, and we're seeing good things from, as we mentioned, with Olave, Riley, Sanker getting in there. Brzee is still young as well. So there are opportunities for these players to continue to grow and make plays as the season goes on. Coming into this game, we knew it was in Chicago. It was raining earlier. It's a windy city. You've played out there before.
Yes.
How much does that really affect you and your game and how you approach things?
Chicago can be a tough place to play. The weather, just despite the weather, it can be a beautiful day. Their field is a little bit different. The grass is a little bit longer. It's a little bit more slippery. So as a pass rusher, you have to get used to your footing. As a DB and a wide receiver, you got to get used to your footing. So it's a different place to play because it is a northern team and their grass is not like here in the South where it's that short, fast turf.
Yeah.
So those are little things, and then you throw in the weather, and the wind is usually always going to be a factor. But yeah, Chicago is probably the coolest games I've ever played was in Chicago. So they got lucky that they weren't playing in November and December. That's not a place you want to show up on the schedule in November, December. But it can be an adjustment to play, especially when you're an indoor team and a turf team.
And it has to be something that is difficult for the kicker because we saw Blake Grupe come in this one, a 53-yard field goal that he missed early in the game. I mean, you could see the goalposts moving. So there's definitely that aspect of it as well, that even though you're practicing, you're warming up, you're testing the wind and everything that you're dealing with there, it could change in the middle of the game.
Especially if you're a kicker. Obviously the elements are going to affect you just as much as anybody. The quarterback, punter, you're constantly looking at those things. So yes, mentally it can be a little intimidating when you go there and you're used to your routine. Players are very routine oriented people. We like the same thing every single week. You don't get that when you play in the elements. So yeah, to line up and see the flags blowing this way or that way, or it's a swirling wind, you have to adapt what you're doing, just like the quarterback has to change or a wide receiver has to change on a deep ball.
Yeah, I definitely have to adjust, and maybe it's hard when you don't practice that in those conditions a lot during the week. There was one play that looked really fun. We thought we were getting something going between Taysom Hill and Alvin Kamara in the fourth quarter. Taysom Hill drops back, throws what we thought was a lateral to Alvin, or a little bit ahead of that. It ended up getting 26 yards gain on the ground by AK, but then it gets reversed because it was apparently a backwards pass.
Yeah, I love the play call. It's a cover two beater, so you run a little shallow route, you check it down really quick, everybody converges on him. Travis Kelce and the Chiefs ran it a couple times. You converge on him, and no one's covering the flat. And if there's a player to do it with, it's Taysom Hill, because obviously he's a quarterback, he's going to make that throw, so it's a great job. It's a great play call.
And that's when you see head coach Kellen Moore getting up to the podium here talking about this one.
The theme of that game, we had our chances. I thought our guys battled. I thought our guys put ourselves in a really good position in the middle of the game to come back and get ourselves back in it. A couple scores, one at the end of the half, one to start the third quarter, but then we just couldn't keep it going. And so credit to those guys. They played better than us. They coached better than us. We got to find the formula that works.
What do you think that they did so effectively on defense in the first half against you?
Yeah, really. We did a really poor job on first down, and then they took advantage of it. And so they were in some. They attacked us on second and third down. They put us in really challenging situations, and we got to play cleaner in first and second down football to put ourselves in more manageable third downs. We had too many second and longs, too many third and longs. Where they're able to play with the pressure game and play with all the disguise that they can do.
First look, how would you say Spencer played today on first viewing?
Yeah, obviously at the end of the day, we missed some opportunities. Spence had some really, really good plays in there. There were some really good plays. There just wasn't enough, and there was too many turnovers. Obviously, that's the formula that these guys have created. They've done a phenomenal job now, coming on 4 games in a row of winning these games, creating turnovers. And we had 4 turnovers. We got to protect the football at a much higher level, and so something we have done in the past, and we just didn't get it done today.
Did you ever think about going to top of in this game at all?
I did not.
Did you notice any common threads with some of the pressure they were able to get in that first half? It seemed like there was blitzes or...
Yeah, the edge blitzes got to us. I think from a protection standpoint, we got to be cleaner. It includes everyone. It's got to include the backs, include the O-line, everyone being tied together, everyone executing at a really high level. I got to do a better job of putting ourselves in better situations because we were just in too many challenging situations to start the game.
The long interception, did you catch what happened on that play? Like, was there miscommunication?
On which one?
The long one, Spencer was rolling out and kind of overthrew Shaheed.
Yeah, it was just a scramble drill. He got off schedule, scrambled. She took the deep potential. We got to see the safety, and the safety came over, and Byard made a great play on the ball.
Anything you could see in what happened? Guys gave up a lot of rushing yards between the tackles. Any commonality to what you could see happen?
Yeah, I'll have to take a look, to be honest. I thought those guys, they ran the ball really well. They credit to those guys. They did an excellent job. Probably a lot of it's, creating creases, cutting out the backside and giving yourself opportunities to get a vertical cut, and now you're on to the safeties. And so, I think a lot of it's going to be a lot of lessons to learn for coming out of this game.
Any updates on McCoy or Kendra Miller?
Yeah, both those guys, there's some concern there. There's concern for both those guys. We'll see how it goes. Obviously, the test will confirm it tomorrow. Obviously, both those guys came out and were not able to come back, and so, we'll hope for the best, but might be a concern for us moving forward.
Anything more you can say about McCoy specifically? Like, is the fear a tear?
Yeah, potential. We just got to see what his bicep elbow looks like, and so him and then Kendra just with the knee, we'll have to see. So.
What did you think of Chris Olave?
I thought Chris played some really big time football today. He was just, I thought he was a highlight. He made some big time plays downfield. He played in some contested catch situations. I was really proud of the way he played.
What does it say about him that he's able to bounce back out the last week of the drops?
Yeah, I simply think he played really good football today. And, you maybe had a couple drops last week, but he responded really well. I thought his focus, his, attention to detail was really good today.
How much of an effect do you think Dennis Allen, knowing the personnel so well, had on this game and how the defense played?
Yeah, I mean, there's always potential. I thought Dennis called a great game. He got us in some really challenging situations, attacked us with some pressure. They did a great job playing with vision on the football and allowed their players to make plays and create turnovers. And so, credit to those guys. They found a formula that's worked really well for a number of weeks now, and they're playing some really good football.
Did he do anything that surprised you?
I think they're always playing with the different pressure combinations. They always do a good job week in and week out. There's going to be little flavors and little adjustments, and he did a really good job.
Can you get into that 3rd and 20 play call, that kind of the pass that ended up getting overturned?
Yeah.
Were you surprised by the ruling there? I mean, I guess it's a replay, so you don't really have anything to say about it. Or?
Yeah. Obviously, they felt like they saw an angle that the ball ended up going forward slightly, and so. Unfortunate. It's 3rd and 20. We're in a challenging situation. We haven't been able to handle those from a deep shot perspective, and so we felt like try and create it with a little bit of a deceptive play. It was close. Felt like our guys executed really well, and obviously, New York felt compelled. They saw the angle, and so the ball was a little further than where the ball was thrown, and so it became a illegal forward pass.
Is it frustrating as a play caller when you have something like that? And now it's on film, and then it ultimately doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, it's close. We have our opportunities. Obviously, that's a challenging circumstance to go into, and so it's a challenge to convert those either way. Felt like it was a big opportunity for us, and the call obviously didn't go our way, and so I understand. I'm sure they had a really good angle of it, and so they felt good about it. Which they had good communication all day about everything.
Turnovers like this haven't been a problem this season. Does that make it more frustrating, or is there anything about the turnovers with the conditions or anything that played a role?
Yeah, we just had, it was a domino effect. We created 4 turnovers. It's not the formula you want on offense, and these guys have done a phenomenal job of attacking the football, and I think their guys are playing opportunistic. We got to protect it at a higher level. I got to put our guys in better situations to protect it. Design things a little bit better from that standpoint so we can avoid some of those situations. And so, again, that's their formula, and they're playing really good football because of it.
A few weeks now where you kind of have to come up here and talk about 1st and 2nd downs, slow starts on offense. Just kind of what goes into those continued issues, and how do you go about kind of making the adjustments to get that right?
Yeah, I think we just got to execute at a higher level. I got to find stuff that guys can execute faster, more decisive early in games, and we got to find a way. Just because it's happened in a couple occasions, it's been pass game and run game. I felt like our guys, once we got the ball moving, towards the end of the second quarter, I felt like we were playing really good football. We scored right before half. That was a big time drive. The second half, to start the game with the drive like that was excellent. And then, we just had a couple turnovers as the game progressed, and we had our opportunities. We were right there. Defense kind of held in there, gave us some ops to go get some scores and put this game right where it needed to be, and so we just weren't able to capitalize.
The final short round yardage situation, did not having McCoy play a factor there in the play call?
No, it did not. It didn't work out, obviously. I got to look at it. I'll look at the film, obviously. There's a couple things you can do there. There's a couple plays within the play, and so I got to do a better job getting us converted there.
Are y'all catching?
Thank you, Kelly.
Thanks, guys.
He's finished. We're gonna give it a sec here. Kill his audio. Pull in the L3. No one's waiting in the room. You want to come back and reflect on that? Yeah? You're like, no, but... All right.
Is it picking up also, or is it the team mute?
I've got them muted. Okay. Okay, we're coming back to you in 3, 2, 1.
That was head coach Kellen Moore after the 26-14 loss to the Bears. Talked a lot about the defensive game plan that the Bears had, how it was extremely effective through some wrenches in what they were trying to do. We spoke on that and how it made things difficult for Spencer to get the ball out, how the turnovers kind of crept up. Biggest takeaways from this one as the Saints look to move forward next week against the Bucs?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest pieces that you have to discuss, because you're talking about all the different blitz looks and all the different blitz packages, and obviously gave the Saints a little bit of trouble early in the game, whether it was sliding the line the right way, the tight end pickup, or the back pickup. But you're going to have to look at Eric McCoy, who left the game. And we all remember last year, the Saints were playing some good football. Eric goes down early in the year against the Eagles, and it was kind of hard to get this line, organized after that for a long period of time. So you really have to take a look at how that's going to go. What the extent of the injury is, we don't know, but Eric McCoy's been a really good player in this league for a really long time. So anytime he's not out there, it definitely affects the communication amongst those five guys up there.
Yeah, center Eric McCoy went down in the fourth quarter with a bicep injury. Earlier in the game, first quarter, it was Kendre Miller who went out with a knee injury. We saw Devin Neal come in often in place there, but the Kendre Miller-Alvin Kamara tandem had been working extremely well.
Yeah.
How much of an effect would that have on the ability to get this run game going the way they would like if he's unable to play?
I mean, it's a huge effect because I thought Kendra was playing some really good football, and I think Alvin's been playing good football, but he's in year 9, so you want to utilize him right. You want to utilize him, not run him in between the tackles every play. I think Kendra, as a young player, had great bursts, and he was leading to that.
All right, well, let's hear what quarterback Spencer Rattler has to say.
Yeah, they were junking up the front. We knew that was going to be a heavy part of their plan. I think it took us a little to settle in. I think we played behind the sticks a little too much early to where they could get in that package and kind of, get after us a little bit. But just got to get settled in quicker. You know what I mean? Put that on me as well. I mean, I got to get the ball out quicker to start the game. I got to protect the ball. I can't fumble the ball second play of the game and give the ball away 4 times throughout the game. So definitely not what I expected to do, but you got to bounce back from that.
Obviously, 4 turnovers is something that you guys have done a good job of controlling the ball pretty much all season. What kind of changed today? Was there any kind of through line between all that?
Well, I mean, I just got to protect the ball. Know the situation. I can't be too aggressive at certain points. Just got to be smarter. Just live to play another down. The first one, you can't fumble the ball. Got to have 2 hands on the ball in the pocket. And the first pick, just threw it behind. And then the next 2, one was on 4th down, obviously at the end when we were trying to be aggressive, and then The other one was just, trying to get a play to Shaheed down the field on a scramble and put too much on it. So, I put that on me. I own up to that. I got to be better in that area. That's unacceptable.
Was that fourth down when was your first read taken away?
Yeah. Yep.
And then, obviously you got something going with Chris, especially. Like, how much has he meant for you, just like as you're kind of learning to play the position at this level and just having something like him there?
Yeah, I mean, he had a great week of practice and stepped up for us big time there. At the end of the first half, and then had another big touchdown there. Start of the second half. So I mean, we finished the first half out great and started out the second half great. And defense played their butts off, kept us in the game for us to turn the ball over 4 times. And, for that score to be that close, credit to the defense. They did an amazing job. I got to protect the ball better. We got to run the ball better. We got to stay out of long distance situations and just be better on first down. And, it's just, you don't want to give the ball away that much. It's just bad.
With Chris in particular, he was saying last week that just after the way last season ended with the concussions and everything, it took him a while to feel like himself. Like, obviously you guys were leaning on him a lot earlier in the year, but can you see him kind of making strides to being kind of the player you'll know he can be?
Yeah, I mean, those 2 big plays he had today, 3 big plays he had today, I mean, those were huge parts of the game, and he stepped up and made some great contested catches. And I know there was a lot of talkers about him last week, and he just showed he's still Chris. He's a dog, So we rely on him a lot and got full confidence in him. And he's a great receiver.
And last one from me.
Small crew today. Yep.
Like, how do you, as a player, just like bounce back from something like this? You hadn't had a lot of games.
Yeah, I mean, just you have to bounce back. You don't plan on giving the ball away that much. That's not what you want to do. Not happy about it. But it's all controllable. So get back to the chalking board and just clean it up.
Spencer, in the first half, there was a play to the left side, and the defensive back was back to you when the receiver was he threw it, and the defensive back considered the penalty on that. That's something you practice quite often, when the defensive back has to go back to you.
Yeah, I tried to throw back shoulder there. Didn't go out wide as much as I wanted the throw to go. I wanted to put it more outside. But when you give your guys chances with the defender's turn, there's a high probability for pass interference there.
Thanks, Spencer.
Thank you.
That was quarterback Spencer Rattler. We're waiting for linebacker Demario Davis to take the podium. We'll send it back to Chicago when he steps up. But every time you listen to Spencer Rattler, he doesn't sound like a second-year player. He takes ownership of what he did or didn't do. And this one said, with the turnovers, the 3 interceptions, and the fumble, he said, I have to do better. I have to make better decisions. They were trying to be aggressive, but he took responsibility for that.
Yeah, and I think he's done a great job of that. And I think that's part of the reason why you root for Spencer to succeed.
Yeah.
He's handled everything the right way. He praises his teammates. He doesn't throw teammates under the bus. He takes ownership and responsibility. And that's not always easy to do, especially as a player. You take too much ownership and responsibility, then you're saying, I am the problem on something. So I think Spencer's done a great job of getting up there. And when you're a quarterback of an NFL team, you're the CEO. You're the franchise. You're the face of the franchise. So everybody's looking to him to see how he's handling these things. And he's done a great job. And today's really been the first time this year where you've looked at and said, you got too careless with the football.
Yeah.
But he's done a lot of really good things. But I think you're starting to see now, you're getting to that point where you have to cut him loose a little bit. You have to start being the reason that you're winning some games and making some plays and making good judgment when you're throwing some of these passes.
What do you think is the balance between how Moore is calling things versus what Rattler can do?
Yeah, I think there's still some balance in that even because, this coaching staff is still learning what players maybe some guys practice better than they play, so, and vice versa, because that happens a lot. Some guys are great in practice, and then you get under lights and they're not the same person. So the coaching staff is still learning about the players, and so you're still learning how do they excel or not excel in certain game situations. I think there's no doubt that Chris Olave and Juwan Johnson are big parts of the game plan. Every single week you can see there's certain design plays. I look forward to Bailey getting more involved. He's got a great body type, a big type mismatch body frame that you can utilize him across the middle. So there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle that I think this league is about matchups and just getting these guys in space to go against guys that you like their matchup against.
Yeah, and we did see a good game from Juwan Johnson. He had a drop earlier in this one, but then he comes back with several huge gains later in the game as the Saints were trying to continue to close this one out to a one-score game after this touchdown here by Chris Olave. There are moments that are working when things are working. What are you seeing here?
Yeah, I think for me, the offense, the best friend to an offense, and the Bears proved it today. When you can run the football, everything really opens up. I think that the Saints passing game, it's too hard not to call. I get it. If I'm Kellen, I want to throw the ball too. He's a former quarterback. He's got great wide receivers, and that's what you want to do. You want to throw the ball all around the yard. And now you lose Kendra, so of course you're going to put the ball to a lot more than you want to. I think you got to find a way to get Taysom more involved in the running game. We saw Taysom line up in the backfield as a running back, as a true running back before. I think he can do those things. Give some help to Alvin and run Spencer maybe a little bit more. But I think Taysom can carry the ball 5, 6, 7 times a game and alleviate Alvin and be that down the hill running back. Okay,
talk to me about the blocking aspect of it with the tight ends and the wide receivers that we're seeing used, because it really seemed like it was tough for anyone to get going past the line of scrimmage in this one. How much is that on the line versus needing those additional blockers?
Yeah, and there's a big part of it. Right now the Saints are number 1 in the NFL in 11 personnel, so that means there's 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 running back. So that's great, but you don't have enough big bodies on the field to get down in the running game sometimes. So maybe bringing Foster on the field with Taysom and Juwan, getting 13 personnel, 1 running back, 3 tight ends, getting big bodies at the line of scrimmage. So now you're not asking your wide receivers to come in and block defensive ends, because Vele today was, he was supposed to secure the edge on an outside perimeter play. Those are tough blocks for wide receivers. Yeah. Wide receivers, they want to go down the field and catch the ball. So I think if you can get some more big bodies and change your personnel groupings a little bit, you could really help your running game succeed a little bit.
Yeah, wide receivers are built for speed and agility, not necessarily being able to
their antennas go up when you're saying, you want me to block who? At defensive end? Yeah, they want to get farther away from the tackle. The farther away from the tackle they are, that's the world they're comfortable in. So I think, we've seen Foster. Foster loves to block. He'll get down there and block. Taysom's as physical as there is. You can still use Juwan in matchup situations, but I know from playing linebacker, we played Tampa Bay, and John Gruden would always have 13 personnel. He would always have these 3 big tight ends. He would flex them out. He would motion them. It was tough offenses to stop.
All right, well, let's hear what Demario Davis, another linebacker, had to say.
That side of things, like 220 something from Chicago. Is there anything just on first glance that kind of added up to that, you think?
I think the first thing in this game defensively you want to be able to do is stop the run. I think in moments we were able to do that, in other moments we weren't able. We'd have to look at the tape and know exactly how that happens. Sometimes that can be skewed. It could be QB scrambles or trick plays and gadget plays that can add up into that. I would have to see the tape to know.
How do you think the defense kind of responded, I guess, after getting down to that early hole?
I thought, when we hit the field, I feel like today we started fast. I feel like, there was some change of possessions that were in situations where you got to be able to get a stop, and we were able to do that. I thought we did some good things on 3rd down, got an early takeaway. But in this game, when you come up short, you got to find a way to do more. Certainly have to look at the tape and figure out where the plays that we kind of left some meat on the bone.
And Caleb just extending plays, how difficult is that going up against somebody like that who just kind of sometimes keep the play alive for 5, 6 seconds?
I think that's every week you got to be able to find a way to get those guys on the ground. When you have the opportunity, you got to find a way to get them down. I know there was one I feel like I could have had him. He got it out late to the running back, and so you just got to find a way. You got to give him credit. You know, that's why he's a #1 pick. That's the kind of plays they're hoping on for him to make. And as a defense, you got to find a way to stop him.
And I know we've asked you this sort of stuff before, but at 1-6, like how do y'all keep it all together? And
Oh, 1 week at a time. You stay resilient. I think when you face a lot in life, you realize it's a whole lot easier to do in football. And it's just when your process is right, you just go back to your process and you tweak where it's dealing with a screwdriver and not with a hammer. Just find out what are areas that you can tighten up and go back to work. And I think there's no doubt about this group of men in the locker room that you're ever going to have to question that. And we take a lot of pride in that and just keep tweaking. We're right there at the door. You keep knocking, and eventually it's going to fall down in your favor.
Any surprises this week from Chicago? Any surprises that you saw in the offense?
No, it was no surprises. They did a good job of running the football very effectively. I don't think we were in a position in the game where we were able to get them where they couldn't run the football, and that's where you really want to be is take away not just the ability to run the football, but take away the ability to run the football because the game is in your favor, and so we didn't do that. So you got to give them credit. I think they had some good shifts and motions that kind of kept us on the toes, and I think they mixed the play action in well off of it as well. So major shout out to their offense.
thank you, Mark.
Thank you. God bless.
That was linebacker Demario Davis after the 26-14 loss to Chicago. We got to move on from this one after you look at the tape, as Demario said, figure out some of the things that happened that led to some of those big plays, the run gains that we saw from the Bears. In the locker room, though, when you are looking at a 1-6 season now, what do you have to focus in on to make sure that the vibes are still good and that you're still working towards a success in the next game?
It's tough because there are a lot of different avenues that can pull your attention away from exactly what Coach Moore and all the coaches have been preaching inside the building. And those avenues are family members, your own family members, it's social media, it's everywhere, telling people what the problem is, who should be playing, who shouldn't be playing, what you should be doing schematically. So there's tons of outside noise and outside influences that can affect you, but I think Demario been a great leader here. They have great leadership on this team. I think there's a lot of guys who they know what the problems are. It's just about fixing them. Like I said, every week everybody knows what to avoid in games, how to win games. But that's why you get paid the big bucks. You got to go out there and execute the game. So it's one thing to know exactly what you need to do. But I just looking for this team. Once you can play a complementary game, a complete game, you can win with 2/3 of the units. You can play good on defense and special teams and not so good on offense, still win a game. You just need that to come together at some point because coming down the road, you got the Buccaneers and the Rams, two of the better teams in the NFC. So you have to do it in a relatively short amount of time.
Yep, you mentioned it. Tampa Bay Bucks are up next. Back here in the Superdome, though, they play Monday night. So we're going to have to wait a day to see how they do and what we got to break down from that game, get ready for this next weekend. For Scott Shanley, I'm Erin Summers. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Saints postgame show as the Saints drop this one 26-14 in Chicago. We'll see you next weekend.